So let's move on to another guy who's overcoming an injury. And from an eye glance, if you look at his numbers he's put up in the G League since being sent down now, he's been recalled. But they said he's going to be continuously sent back and forth depending on how the lineups are going for this team. If they need players, they're going to call him up. But if they can't give him 25 minutes a night, they're going to send him down to the G League team because they rather him be playing 25, 30 minutes a night with the G League team than with a starting roster. And this guy is James Wiseman. James Wiseman is a guy that is an interesting. If you look at the stats in the G League, he's averaging like 16 and 10 and like a block and a steal. But if you actually watch the tape, there's a lot of him missing rotations defensively, being overzealous and aggressive and missing blocks, fouling, and all that stuff. And I have faith, but the thing is the rumors are coming out that the Golden State Warriors, along with the Toronto Raptors, we'll get into this with Jakob Poeltl, but they are persistently calling, and the Warriors have now offered multiple times James Wiseman straight up no picks for Jakob Poeltl, and take the fucking trade.
And
the Spurs have denied the trade, saying that they want at least one first round pick attached for Jakob Poeltl because they believe Jakob Poeltl is superiorly better than James Wiseman.
All right, well then pay him $25 a year.
They're fine with that.
I don't think they are. Who's gonna budge first? It'll be San Antonio. All right, well, here's a counter. I'll give you, let's see. Who can I give you? I'll give you Juancho Hernan-Gomez and Thaddeus Young in a first-round pick. You want that, or do you want James Wiseman?
That was my question is, who would they send the Spurs? Because you would think, would it be they wouldn't give up Precious? They wouldn't. Would the Spurs
have to give up somebody they don't want to?
My thought is, would they just give you Thad Young and a pick so you can just waive Thad Young?
That would be a highway robbery if they don't. If they do that trade as opposed to not taking James Wiseman, that will be.
What are your thoughts of James Wiseman? They're going back there. That the fact that they're literally. I've said that James Wiseman, the Warriors, if they do trade him, they're just going to trade him for a first-round pick so they can recover about, the investment that they got in him. And that's just because execs have an ego. If they're going to trade a guy that they drafted in the first round, especially a lottery guy, let's get a first-round pick back whatever way we can. And James Wiseman, they don't even need him to be the starter. They just need him to come in 15 minutes a night, grab 7 boards, drop 7 points, shoot 60% from the field, get a block and a steal, and make a defensive impact. So, thoughts?
Well, my thoughts on James Wiseman is he should be in the G League if he's not playing 25 a night, and it's just something you're going to have to kind of suffer with. I mean, you should have taken LaMelo Ball, I think. Let's call a spade a spade. If LaMelo Ball was on this basketball team, he doesn't. He's a point guard. Shut up. You take the best player available. I still am very high on James Wiseman long term. He's a very young player. As Double J is saying, I feel like he's a late bloomer. I totally agree with that. But he's 21 years old. I think the big thing is, and I've talked about this all season before we got into the regular season, because I was very big on James Wiseman, because the James Wiseman we saw in preseason was not the James Wiseman we saw in the G League or in the start of the season. It was a more team-oriented style player who's, he's going to make plays, he's going to get his bag here and there, but for the most part, he's setting the picks, he's getting offensive boards, he's doing all the little stuff to help your team win. So if he can do that with Golden State, then, which we've seen in a couple of games, I'm very hopeful on him, though, because Golden State knows how to develop players, and we're seeing it on a very much more consistent basis with Jonathan Kuminga. But that was one of the things I got flamed for at the start of the season was, listen, Golden State, if James Wiseman is playing 10 minutes and then he's catching 3 DNPs and then he's playing 10 minutes, you're better off in the G League. He's better off in the G League, or you got to just suffer with it. So I'm very hopeful for James Wiseman. I would do the Jakob Poeltl trade because I think that would secure the championship for Golden State, or it would at least get them back to the championship in order to defend it if they were to make that trade. But I still think James Wiseman at one point in his career at his peak is going to be 25 and 10. I mean, I know he possesses it. You just got to stay healthy, continue to evolve your game.
I've said this before. James Wiseman, people forget when he came into the NBA, he was what we thought what Embiid Mobley did. Okay, like that's the type of impact he was supposed to have for the Warriors. And maybe that's me being a bit ostentatious, but I really think that.
Good word.
Yeah, no. And I think it's just people are forgetting that Wiseman was a guy. Yes, he only played 3 games in college basketball.
He didn't play much. Got injured his rookie season.
But at the end
He
of the
didn't play
day,
much.
I think with James Wiseman, what you're looking at is he's a guy with elite skills and talents that he has some real flaws, but he could be one of the NBA's elite rim protectors, a genuine top 5 impact player on that side of the floor. He's a guy who could be a very high level rim runner. And I buy into him being a shooter. We've seen him shoot the ball. He can get that 3-point shot down. And I think he has a solid floor of production eventually, but he's right now struggling to defend away from the rim. And the thing is that yes, sometimes he misses up on rotations for drop coverage, but I think he's a play finishing big man who has the ability to either develop into a Miles Turner player with better gravity going toward the basket as a rim runner. And I think if you add maybe not being as good as a shooter as Miles Turner, but that elite rim running and average vertical spacing that Turner provides, I think Wiseman has the ability to become a guy who could be a solid guy at the very least, who stretches the floor, maybe like like a Miles Turner mixed with like a little like Daniel Gafford.
Interesting. Yeah, that's a fair point you bring up with the shots. He hasn't, to my knowledge, he hasn't taken a 3 this year, but I remember him in Japan. I remember him taking 3s, and rookie season, he was making. I mean, he wasn't taking 1-1-3 game, but he's shooting.
But during the
30,
finals,
31.
remember we saw that clip where he took 33s from Joe Dumars.
Like he can shoot it. Yeah, you're right. I haven't seen it this year though, which is something interesting. I guess it's they're looking for good shots, and it's a small probability, but yeah, I'm still bought in on James Wiseman. I don't think he will develop into what I want him or expect him to develop in a Golden State Warrior uniform, which kind of sucks. But for the rest of the NBA, I guess it's good.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely interested to see what ends up happening here, because I don't know what's the correct way this is going to play out due to the fact that there's so much going out. I mean, the guy could end up in New York, and I think that's a great segue to the next thing that's going on in New York. Are they